What's good, family? Chivdano is live. Welcome to my channel. Chivdano is live. I am Chivdano. My channel is all about Pan-Africanism, global unification of everyone of African descent, wherever you find yourself in the world. If you are of African descent, you need to claim your lineage, your inheritance awaits you. Okay, on the beautiful landmass called Africa. Today is the 6th of December 2019. It feels like it was just yesterday I was here, but it's Friday again. Okay, happy Friday. Very beautiful day here in Melbourne. It's a bit warm. So I am chilling. All right. Excuse me if I'm a bit sweaty. Okay, I'm gonna be a little bit sweaty today because it's a bit warm. All right, so oh geez, I dropped something. All right, so I'm not gonna be here for long. Well, I would love to be here for long, but it depends on how many people I have in the chat to join me. But I do have some very, very interesting news to share on Africa Watch. A lot has been happening since the beginning of the year, and it's almost the end of the year, and things don't seem to cease at all. I mean, every day things are happening. Okay, on the continent especially, and around the world in relation to Africa. So I am here to talk about it. Okay, I'm here to discuss with you affairs concerning Africa. All right, so again, welcome to my channel. I am Chivdano. My channel is all about Pan-Africanism, global unification of everyone of African descent. I'm here primarily to educate. I believe that education is key. That's what everyone says, and rightfully so. Okay, when you are educated, you can find ways and means to better your life. Okay. And surprisingly, education is what's lacking in so many people that makes them, act the fool. Basically, I'll put it plainly. Okay, so the wise always seeks knowledge. Okay, and it's all there. Okay, all information you need to improve your life is there. All you have to do is pick up a book and read. Okay, find the right materials, right resources to aid you to your enlightenment. Okay, and broaden your knowledge. Okay, so I'm going to share a few articles today, but let me just go through the articles that I want to share today. Okay, or the form of education I want to bring to you today. My channel is mainly about Pan-Africanism, but also promoting education. Okay, I believe that liberation is through education. Okay, as I stated before, if you educate yourself, you always find ways and means. Okay, to better your life. So liberation through education. Okay, African liberation through African education, or just education. All right, on a broad spectrum. Okay, so and I also believe that application of knowledge gives rise to wisdom. So you can have so much knowledge, but if you do not apply it to better your life, you're going nowhere. Okay, you're going nowhere. So you always have to apply your education to practicality. Okay, make it benefit you. All right, then you're doing something. Okay, so I'm going to talk about. I came across this article a couple of days ago, and I was just waiting for the right moment to share it. Okay, this is by Express. Okay, express.co.uk. Okay, Europeans have already known this. Okay, since they started exploiting Africa, digging all the graves in Egypt. All they could find was black mummies. Okay, they're telling them that Egypt was black. Okay, all the Egyptian kings were black. Okay, North Africa was black. The deeper they dig, okay, the blacker the planet is. and they keep digging. Okay, they keep digging. They have all this knowledge, but they keep suppressing it. They're waiting for a time to say, "Aha, we found some white European history of Africa," but they never do. All right. So 2019, I say that 2019 is the year of the liberation of the black mind, and rightfully so. A whole lot of things are coming out. Even Australian archaeologists are digging in Africa and revealing that everyone came from Africa. Okay, everyone came from Africa. So this news headline from express.co.uk, okay, is telling us that archaeology shock. Okay, scientists in stunning breakthrough to redefine ancient Rome's history. Okay, we've already known this. Okay, growing up as a teenager, I was always reading. Okay, I came across a lot of these articles over 10 years ago. Okay, over 10 years ago, but they didn't really make a headline. People they deem Afrocentrics were talking about these kind of things, and they were being ridiculed and laughed at. Okay, but in 2019, okay, the joke is on them. Right, the joke is on them. So it's funny how things happen. All right, but yeah. So next, I'm gonna share. So again, I'll take that again. Okay, archaeological shock, scientists in stunning breakthrough to redefine ancient Rome's history. Okay, so basically the article is saying that Rome was a melting pot. Okay, but they don't want to say Rome was black. They would just say Rome was a melting pot. But what does it mean by melting pot? All right, but they were bold to say Rome was white. Okay, all the images, all the movies they push out, Rome was white. Okay, moving on. So to Ghana Web, okay, SADC calls for removal of sanctions against Zimbabwe. So we're going to talk about that. Okay, Zimbabwe is facing a lot of sanctions from the US and the European Union, and it's really crippling the people and destroying their livelihood, and basically the people are suffering. Okay, so everyone is calling for the end to the sanctions on Zimbabwe. So we'll talk about that. Also have U.S.-Zambia diplomatic ties strained over Zambia's 15-year-old jail sentence of gay couple. Okay, so we all know that being gay in Africa is a very dangerous position for you. Okay, being that the African does not hate you being gay, but the act of homosexuality is a crime. Okay, the act of homosexuality has been a crime since the dawn of time. Okay, you can go to Egypt and find it on the wall. Okay, I forgot the number. I think it's the 62 confessions of Ma'at. Okay, the negative confessions of Ma'at. Okay, one of them states that, which the Hebrews got their 10 commandments from. One of them stated that thou shalt not sleep with another man, else you wouldn't enter the gates of heaven. Okay, so the African believes in life. Okay, the only way life can come, okay, or the continuation of life of the African is through a man and a woman reunion. Or union of a man and a woman. Okay, it's not through a man and a man like Adam and Steve. All right, the African believes in Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve. All right, so I'll talk about that as well. And also from GhanaWeb.com, Kenya Airways rolls out the latest technology in revenue management. That spells a lot of implications. Okay, it basically just tells me that we all know Kenya is very corrupt. Okay, there's a lot of corruption in Kenya, and they're trying to do away with the corruption. So they're trying to find ways and means to bypass money going to people's pockets. So they're trying to implement all this technology that would oversee money, other than money going directly into people's pockets. Okay, so we'll talk about that as well. We have pirates kidnapped 19 crew members of Greek tanker off Nigerian coast. So we'll talk about that as well. UN warns tropical storm to hit northern Somalia. So yeah, beware if you're in Somalia. Okay, and the rains continue to pour in Africa. Okay, it's raining in Africa. Okay, Mozambique cyclone battered city of Beira submerged by rains. Okay, so there's more rain. I think a few months ago, Mozambique was battered with the hurricane, and now they're getting more rains, and the streets have been flooded. It's flooded in Kenya, flooded in Sudan, flooded where Malawi, so yeah, the rains are coming, family. We embrace it. Okay, we embrace the rains. Moving on, maize meal prices in Zimbabwe set to go down as government restores grain subsidy. All right, so Zimbabweans are suffering. Okay, so we need to look at that. Right, we need to look at that and pray for the people of Zimbabwe, and increase your voice. Okay, let your voice be loud to the outside world, okay, especially the Western government, okay, to lift the sanctions of Zimbabwe. So we're going to talk about it, okay. We're going to talk about why the sanctions are put on Zimbabwe. We know the reasons why, but it's unfair, okay, it's illegal, and the sanctions need to be lifted off Zimbabwe. All right. So moving on, this is also from Ghana, where Macron pension reform. So Macron is always he's always been reforming since he took office. So we're going to look at that. France braces for severe disruption amid strike. So France has been striking. People in France have been striking the yellow vest, whatnot. Okay, so we'll talk about that. At least 18 dead in clashes in northern Mozambique. We'll talk about that. Religious clashes. Okay, this is one reason why religion needs to go. Okay, we'll talk about it. The son of Gabon president appointed coordinator of presidential affairs. So a bit of nepotism going on, but I mean, I will employ my son if I were the president of the country. I'm gonna give my son work to do. All right, so yeah, it's nepotism is good. It's great. Right, it's family first. Okay, so we're moving on to Nigeria. Senator Orji Kalu, ex-Nigerian governor, jailed 12 years over $20.9 million fraud. Okay, so we'll look at that as well. Uganda's anti-corruption march helped patrons keep fit. With 70 there. Okay, so we'll look at that as well. Somalia conditionally frees journalists after ex-diplomats' death. Okay, so that's something else to look at as well. So we're looking at also Tanzania. Tanzania bans citizens from suing government in African Human Rights Court. So Magufuli is, is a very, very strong man. Okay, he's doing everything right. Okay, as a president in Africa, and basically shutting the doors to the Europeans. This is the way. Okay, every African president or every African nation needs to emulate after Tanzania. All right, just shut the doors on the Europeans. Don't give them a leeway at all. Okay, so yeah, Magufuli is doing exactly that. So yeah, moving on to Mauritania now. Boat mishap off Mauritanian coast kills 58 over 80 survivors rescued. All right, so we'll look at that as well. So Sudan is back in the news. Okay, post Bashir, Sudan, U.S. plans ambassadorial presence after 23 years. Okay. France, moving on to France. France not in Sahel for neo-colonialist or economic reasons, Macron warns. No, we already know why France is in the Sahel. Okay, France is there for exactly the same thing. All right, can you trust the devil to tell you the truth? No, we don't believe you, Macron. We don't believe you. All right, so moving on. Malawi government orders meddlesome EU envoy to pack off. Okay, so Paul Kagame did the same thing. Okay, for 3 streams in a row, I reported on this. All right, so we'll talk about it. And moving on to Zambia, even animals stay of same-sex relations. We won't budge. Zambia president. Okay, so Zambia is under fire by from the United States. Diplomat was sent over, and he made some. He was surprised that Zambia jailed a alleged homosexual couple 15 years in prison, and they got very surprised by it. He made a remark which Zambians took offense to, so we'll look at that as well. And yeah, so my main focus here, okay, is education. So I wanted to educate you on a little bit of history about Africa, okay. So just an excuse to have a drink. I'm gonna share my screen right now. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for joining me. I appreciate you coming there. Homo behavior is not allowed in Africa, period. Boom. Boom. Okay, we do not want it here. Okay. All right, so I am going to talk about, if you're coming through, please like the stream. Okay, like the stream, share it, and invite your friends. All right, so my first article for today would be from express.co.uk. Okay, so we have archaeological shock. Okay, scientists in stunning breakthrough to redefine ancient Rome's history. All right, and they throw a picture here. Okay, this is such an ambiguous looking person. Okay, we'll say this person is typically a mixed person. Okay, between a European and an African. Okay, this is a typical look of a Mediterranean person. Okay, so Mediterranean people are basically a mix between Africans and Europeans, and I'll tell you exactly when this mix took place. Okay, it only took place between the year of 700 BC, okay, and 500 BC. This was this was during the Germanic expansion. Okay, before 500 BC, the Germanic people, the people that we know predominantly in Europe, in Northern Europe, say in England. Let's take, for example, the royal family in England. Okay, they are of the Germanic tribe. Okay, those people were not ubiquitous in Europe. They were only in around Norway, okay, Denmark, eastern Germany, okay, anything east of the Danube River, okay, cutting across from Germany all the way to the Swiss Alps. Okay, these were the Germanic tribes. They did not cross over until 500 BC, between the years of 700 BC and 500 BC. So we're going to talk about that. All right, so question is, who was in Europe before then? Okay, it was all African people. All right, African people. So someone asked me the question, have black people always been in Europe? My answer is yes. Okay, black people have always been in Europe. The first people to move to Europe were Africans. All right, we're Africans. Okay, so some people may say Neanderthals, but Neanderthals went extinct about 20,000 years ago. All right, so about not until about 5,000 years ago, there was nothing like even a white person on the planet. Okay, so moving on. So scientists have discovered that it was in fact a melting pot. Okay, so they want to throw that out there saying it's a melting pot, but they do not want to say it was black. In fact, a melting pot of different cultures and ethnicities in what has proved to be an unprecedented archaeological DNA excavation study by Joel Day. Okay, so a new collection of DNA samples from ancient Romans dating as far back as 12,000 years has revealed how the population was more diverse than what was previously understood. Okay, so this is like old news. Okay, this is old news. Like I said, I came across these kind of things like in 2010. this story here is new, but the fact has always been there, okay, for a very, very long time. And those of you who have read a bit, you would have come across this, okay? So in 2019, they're still looking for evidence, okay? And all they can find is the deeper they dig, okay, the blacker the planet is. All right. So the study not only revealed a multicultural picture of what was thought to be a relative monoculture, but has also made it clearer why ancient Rome's political discourse might have changed so drastically over time, with its society shifting simultaneously with its politics. As we know, as we're aware, in Italy, there's an African woman in Congress, in the parliament. So it should tell you, okay. The analysis found that ancient Romans were from all around Europe, the Near East, and Northern Africa, rather than just an isolated enclave of Rome and its surrounding areas. So they throw that in there as well, saying Near East and Northern Africa. No, it wasn't. Okay, basically, ancient Rome was nearly all of Africa. Okay, when we talk about North Africa, this includes West Africa as well. This includes the Nile Valley. Okay, we're talking about Ethiopia. We're talking about Sudan. We're talking about Egypt. We're talking about Libya. We're talking about Chad. We're talking about the Congos. Okay, all right. So yeah. Jonathan Pritchard, co-author of the study and geneticist based in Stanford University, said Rome was a cosmopolitan, okay, melting pot kind of place. Yeah, that's what because they've always been pushing that Rome was white, but they don't want to admit that Rome was black. So they want to say now Rome is import. All right, so this is BS, right? But I'm going to show you after this article, I'm going to show you evidence that Rome was actually black, all right, before the Europeans started migrating south, okay, or crossing the Danube River into African-built civilizations. So it doesn't match how most people think about ancient cities. He explained that it wasn't until around 3,000 years ago that the inhabitants of Rome started to genetically resemble modern residents of today. It's not even 3,000 years ago. It's 2,500. Okay. 2,500. Okay, this article gives it an extra 500 years. It's actually 2,500 years. Okay, or 600 years. No, actually 2,500 years, because it was 500 BC. 500 BC. Okay, that's when Rome was overran by the Vandals. And I've seen depictions of the Vandals, and Vandals also included black people. People of African descent were also among the Vandals. So yeah, this is nothing new. We know even in Sweden, the Swedish government is pushing history lessons that the original Swedes were actually black-skinned, dark-skinned people from Africa. So yeah. And even included Vikings. Vikings had dark-skinned Vikings. So black people have always been in Europe, all right. So it was previously thought that most of Rome's inhabitants were mainly from Rome and the surrounding. All right, so these are Roman ruins, okay. Yeah. Studies up until this point have focused efforts on mapping the DNA of ancient Europeans from hunter-gatherers populations who roamed the earth 11,000 to 12,000 years ago, claims Professor Pritchard. Thus, he said himself and his team were drawn to explore the genetic profiles of more recent peoples, such as those from Roman Empire, and then to compare our historical view of them. In all, the team collected DNA remains from 127 individuals from 29 separate archaeological sites in and around Rome, the oldest dating back around 10,000 BC. After crushing a small portion of each sample's inner skull bones, the team extracted and sequence DNA from the material. Okay. So here's a depiction of some Roman people. Okay, the empire eventually split into two, with its capital moving to Constantinople. All right. So every article that I read will be in the description box, so you can check it out for yourself. Okay. They then put the genomes in chronological order to map out how the population of Rome changed over time. The earliest samples collected from the region showed local hunter-gatherers resembled other, more Western Europeans. Okay, so scientists then discovered the first demographic shift to have occurred around 7,000 years ago, basically 5,000 BC. Okay, that's when people started turning white, right? As farming began and humans of Iranian ancestry began mixing with the population. Like Iranians, okay, it's not the modern day Iran. Okay, Iranians are basically people from Hungary, people from like northern Turkey, okay, Romanians, okay, people from like Azerbaijan, okay, those are Iranian people. But ironically, the country Iran shares borders with Azerbaijan, so due to migration, you can see that happening. Okay, following the Ice Age, more humans from the Eastern European steppe region of the earth started to appear in and around Rome. So yeah, after the Ice Age, okay, so the Ice Age basically ended about 15,000 years ago. Okay, 10,000, 15,000 years ago. So the ice melted, and these people who were trapped up north, like your Scandinavians, started migrating down south. Okay, so yeah. So here, this is a mammoth construction. Mammoth constructions took place in the time of ancient Rome. So this looks like a ancient Roman metropolis here. Okay, so yeah. Ras Johnson and Ludin, at present, this worldwide felt consciousness is quickly awakening people's hearts. So count number of coincidences. Without apology, I declare the source, Yahshua, aka Haile Selassie, I, Jah Rastafari. All right, blessings, family. I have some news from Rastafari website too. So yeah, so I mean, the awakening, I sort of had this awakening over 10 years ago, but this article here is 2019. Okay, this is like dated 2 days ago, and Europeans are still looking for evidence to show that they were here first. They were first in Europe, but they're not gonna get it. Okay, all they're seeing is the planet is black. Okay, Europe was built by African people. Okay, the recent Europeans that we see, the Germanic family only came down south 500 BC and disrupted what Africans had going. Okay, when they saw that they couldn't beat the Africans, they intermarried with the Africans, and then later on committed genocide on the Africans. Okay, all right. That's why when you go to Italy, you see majority of the people are dark skinned with curly hair. I mean, where does that come from? You've got to have African DNA to have curly hair, right? Right. So the consciousness is here, no doubt. I always say 2019 is the year of the liberation of the black mind, or the African mind. So the Great Awakening is here. Okay, 2019. Okay, also marks the end of 400 years of slavery, to put it that way. But I say, or the year of return. Okay, but I say it's actually indeed the year of liberation of the black mind. Okay, so global consciousness. All right. So who else is here? DC Brad 925. How's it going, family? I haven't seen you in a while. I am digging the shade, bro. Oh, thanks, family. Thank you. I was actually trying to trim my mower, and then I accidentally, ruined it. So I had to clear it off. And I'm glad you like it. I'm glad you like it. All right, peace. So going on, continuing on, a drawing of ancient Roma. Okay, ancient Roma. So there was Rome, and then the ancient people of Rome were called Etruscans. Okay, so Rome was a neighboring enclave next to or sharing borders with Etrusca, which were undoubtedly African-looking people. All right, so boom. I'll show later on. I'm going to show you images of Etruscans. Okay, after reading this article. So both of these population trends are similar to that of what happened in Europe on a much wider scale, explained Professor Pritchard. Okay. As Rome expanded and the Iron Age began, the scientists' data showed that different humans of different ancestries from around the region started to assimilate and live together. Okay, so basically mixing, right? And that basically created the Mediterranean people. Okay. This particular shift in societal cohesion, says Professor Pritchard, makes sense as better transportation as a result of improved tools and logistics made for more efficient means of travel, such as sailing around the Mediterranean becoming more common. Okay, the study showed that 1,700 years ago, the Roman Empire entered a state of gradual dissolution. Okay, so here the sailing of the Mediterranean was brought to that region by African people. Okay, the Egyptians mastered the Nile. They have the Egyptian boats, okay, which they sailed on the Nile, and they took it into the Mediterranean. Okay, the Egyptians founded the islands of Crete. Okay, civilizations. Okay, Etrusca is nothing short of an extension of Egyptian civilization. We're looking at the Minoan civilization. It's an extension of the Egyptian civilization. The ancient Phoenicians and Canaanites were all of African descent. Okay, they got all this knowledge from Africa, right? So here's a picture of ancient Egypt. Here's the location of ancient Egypt. Okay, mind you, Egypt is not what it is today on the map. Okay, Egypt stretched all the way from the Mediterranean all the way to Sudan. Okay, all that was Egypt. Okay, touching Ethiopia, which was sovereign, Kush. All right, and at one time, Kush conquered the entire region of Egypt. Okay, all was the Kushite Ethiopian Empire. All right, moving on. So this article shows you the Great Pyramid complex, the Great Sphinx, the Nile River, temples of Luxor, Valley of the Kings, all along the Nile. And 90% of modern day Egyptians live along the Nile. Okay, so basically the Nile is the giver of life. Okay, right. Which the Egyptian understood that the Nile is basically the birth canal. Okay, so Africa is the mother. Okay, the Nile is the umbilical cord. Right. So when you understand ancient Egypt, okay, you understand this concept. And if you look behind me, okay, I indulge myself in these kind of things. I study these kind of things. So you can see behind me. Behind me is the Egyptian boat. Okay, so you see some beautiful Egyptian sisters on a boat. All right. So yeah, I'll show you that artifact a bit later. It's actually a clock. So much of northern Africa was part of the Roman Empire. No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. It was only a sliver of North Africa that was part of the Roman Empire because they only stayed on the coast. Okay, the Roman Empire was only on the coast of Africa. They couldn't go inner because it was too hot for them. Right. The Roman Empire split in two, with the capital being moved to Constantinople, modern-day Istanbul. This divide coincided with a change in the inhabitants of Rome's trading habits. Okay, so new trade routes seem to have brought about a fresh influx of ancestry into the region, according to the scientists. All right, so Professor Pritchard said people aren't just trading with the North and West, but their population is being replaced by new people coming in from these places. Okay, so people trading from like India and all these places, China and Genghis Khan. Okay, conquering much of Europe, bringing its people in, mixing. We know ancient times. Okay, Ramesses the third. Okay, the second. Is it Ramesses the second conquering all the way into Turkey, into Georgia, Russia? We have Hannibal Barca conquering the Roman Empire. Okay, so we see all these Africans did not sit idle. Okay, they fought back. Okay, the ancient Greeks were before the Romans, and the Greeks wrote abundantly about the strength and power of Africans, and the beauty of Africans also. DC Brad 925. I found out I am Asante on my mother's side. I want to open a farm in Ghana now. Good on you, family. Good on you. Go ahead. Okay, Ghana is open for investment in farming. So yeah, go ahead. Make sure it's on a large scale farming, mechanized farming. All right. So boom. So here's the end of the article. Okay, the coinciding of historical, political, and societal changes was, says Professor Pritchard, a pleasant surprise. As many political upheavals during the eras examined were short and intense. Okay, the team said they endeavor to learn more about the genetic makeup of the locations they suspect fed into Roman diversity in order to learn more about human history. Okay, so they've been digging since the 1920s, the 1800s. Napoleon and his army went into Egypt. They were mad. Okay, they were upset that the Egyptian Sphinx was in the form of a black woman. Okay, they blew the face off, but we can still see it. Okay, undoubtedly an African representation of an African woman. Undoubtedly. Okay, well, all the mummies they dug out were all black. And I have my DNA to prove, okay, I am descended from Ramesses III. And it's only a rare occurrence, okay? Only a handful of people are. Yeah, and I'm proud to know that my DNA it stems out of Ramesses III. So this is no joke, okay? This is no joke. The same DNA they're dealing with is what I deal with too. So yeah, as they keep searching, okay, they're gonna find out that Africa gave birth to all of them. Right. So in 2019, okay, this article, let me show you today. Let me show you, okay. This by express.co.uk, okay, United Kingdom, okay. Wednesday, November 27th, 2019. Okay. Just recent, last week. All right, so moving on, okay, I'm gonna show you a few things about black Romans, okay, before I show you this new articles. Is anybody interested in hopping on? Okay, my email is in the chat. Okay, please scroll up, you find my email address if you're interested in hopping on. Okay, all right, so if you're interested in hopping on, send me an email. I'll send you the link, okay, and we can discuss. Okay, so this is what the channel is all about. Okay, the platform is about interacting, okay, educating. So if you have some knowledge to share, by all means, I'm excited to have you on. Okay, I'm excited to have you on. So what was I going to do now? I was going to show you some black Roman people. Okay, so black Romans. All right, so this is from Wikipedia. Okay, all I have to do is type in black Romans into Wikipedia. And by the way, Wikipedia is asking for donations. So I managed to donate some cash today, only $3. Okay, I managed to donate $3 to Wikipedia. Yeah, so here, okay, all you have to do is type in black Romans on Google. Okay, and you see all these photos of black Romans. Okay. Okay, here, there's definitely an African looking person. Okay, there's a cartoon of that, black Romans. Okay, yeah, there's an Etruscan. Okay, here's an Etruscan, undoubtedly an African. Okay, undoubtedly an African looking person. Okay. Okay. Undoubtedly. Yeah. Here is a movie, okay, on black Roman generals. Okay, here's an image of an Etruscan. Okay, here more black Romans. Brother Junibian, thanks for joining the stream, family. I appreciate you. Peace, power, and protection, J family. Boom. Okay, peace and love, family. Boom. He is a mosaic. Okay, of undoubtedly an African when you look at the phalanx here. Okay, undoubtedly an African. Okay. This is Roman mosaic at the entrance of the men's bath at the ruins of Timgad, Algeria. Okay, this is Algeria, right? According to the Corpus images, it is titled "The Negro of Timgad." Other white sources title it "Black Bath Attendant." Right. So moving on, here are some popes. Okay, some popes of the Roman Catholic Church. Okay, if you saw from my thumbnail, okay, this is a Roman youth, undoubtedly an African. Okay, looks exactly like me. Okay, undoubtedly an African. Here there are more images. Okay, more images of black Europeans. Okay, black Roman people. Okay, Etruscans. Okay, here some Etruscans. Okay, undoubtedly, undoubtedly. Okay, an African. So there's a question here. Do Italians have black heritage? Hell yeah, they do. Hell yeah, they do. Where do you think they got the curly hair from? Where do they think they get the afro from? Where do they think they get the dark skin from? Okay, the big lips, the brown eyes. Where do they think they get it from? Right. So here, more images of Etruria. Okay. Okay. Here, more images of Etruria. Yeah. Undoubtedly, Africans. Okay, and this is 2019, and these people are surprised about these things, but these things have already existed. Okay, and I'm saying I came across this like 10 years ago. 10 years ago. Okay, so here's one: Greeks and Romans on Egyptians. All right, so check that out. Okay, here is black presence in ancient Greece. Okay, undoubtedly an African. Okay, looks like a Sudanese. So yeah, I mean, okay, so that's enough of that. Okay, I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna read from Rasta Live Wire. Okay, Rasta Live Wire. A little bit of that as well. So my channel is about education, all right? Brother Denivia said, yes, they have our blood. Definitely do. Okay, and DNA doesn't lie. Okay, when you go on, just Google Y chromosomes. Okay, haplogroup E. It's throughout Europe. Okay, it's no joke. Haplogroup E is throughout Europe, all the way into Germany. Okay, and haplogroup E is your father's lineage, the father's bloodline. So when you follow the haplogroup E, you know, majority of Mediterranean people do have African blood, no doubt. Brother Genevian again said, I just saw a deep video. If you mod me, I can post it about the wheels, aka UFOs. Okay, cool. Did you see my little video on the asteroids? Donald Trump is denying UFOs, but I saw a very short snippet of the U.S. Air Force posting a lot of videos about UFO sightings and stuff, and Donald Trump was quizzed about it, and he basically said he knows nothing about it. So yeah, but Donald Trump is stupid anyway. They're not going to tell him because he's going to blow the secret anyway. So Mr. Trump is not trustworthy like that. They're not going to tell him that. So I'm going to make you a mod, brother. Yeah, how do I make you a mod? Yeah, I've done it before. I've done it before. Add moderator. All right, boom. You are now my board. Okay, you are now my mod. Congratulations. All right, so yeah, check it out, family. Check it out. Okay, it's really deep. So yeah, and I totally forgot. Okay, today is the 6th of December. Okay, it was said that an asteroid is meant to zoom past Earth today. So we're going to be looking out for that. I looked through the news. I haven't seen any news on it yet. So it's probably going to be, it was probably American time. Okay, today is the 6th. It's 6:30 p.m. here, 6:39 p.m. So the U.S. is now waking up. Okay, from the East Coast is now waking up. The West Coast is still on the 5th of December. So you guys are way behind, right? So yeah, I'll keep an eye out for that. Okay, so check it out. Okay, it's one of my latest videos, so you can check it out. All right, so moving on to Rasta Live Wire. Telling you a bit about Black Romans. Okay, here Black Romans articles on Black history. Okay, so like I said, okay, every day is Black History. Okay, every day is Black History. Every month is Black History Month. Okay, not just February. So yeah, every opportunity I get, I'll use it to educate. Okay, I'll use it to educate. So I don't want to hear that Egyptians are not Black. I don't want to hear it from Black people. I don't want to hear from African people. Heck, okay, I have my DNA to show that I've descended from Ramesses III. All right, so Egyptians are not Black. Okay, so so this article is from Rasta Live Wire. So all the Rastafari guys in here, okay. Shout out to Rastafari. Yeah, thank you all for bringing us the enlightenment. Okay, enlightenment. All right, we appreciate it. So this article was dated June 29th, 2006. 2006. This is a long time ago. All right, a long time ago. What? 15 years ago? 15 years ago. Look at it. It still looks very, very crisp. All right, very crisp. So I'm happy to bring this out, okay, to show you that these are the times that I started studying. Okay, these are the times that 13. Okay, these are the times that I started, studying these kind of things. This is when I gained my consciousness in 2016. Right, still a teenager. All right. So boom, and I wasn't smoking any form of weed or anything. Okay, I just happened to read a lot. All right, I read a lot. Okay, so here are some coins, some ancient Roman coins depicting Africans. Okay, look at that beard. Definitely African. Okay, let's see if you can blow it up. Okay, definitely Africans. All right. Definitely Africans. All right, cool. Now, how do I exit this? Let's go. Okay, let me go back. All right, so was Septimius Severus the first Black man to rule England? Did you know that Black and Asian people first came to the northeast in Roman times? Okay, I'll take that again. Did you know that Black and Asian people first came to the northeast in Roman times, or that England was once ruled by a Libyan? These and many more historical facts were revealed as part of BBC Black History Month. Okay, this is not true. Okay. Okay, Black people have always been in Europe. They did not come during Roman times. Okay, Black people have already existed before Roman times. And I just showed you Etruscans. Etruscans were there before the Romans. Okay. Etruscans, the Etrusca was existed before Rome, okay, or the Roman people. Okay. We're looking at Etrusca is about 800 BC. Romans only showed up 300 BC. Okay, or Rome became an empire 300 BC. Greece became an empire 600 BC. Okay, exactly 630 BC. Okay, that's when they conquered Egypt. Okay, 700 BC was Babylonians conquered Egypt, and a few years prior to that was the Assyrians. Okay, the Assyrians conquered Egypt. The Babylonians conquered Egypt. Okay, or conquered the Assyrians, drove them out, and then the Greeks conquered the Babylonians, and then the Romans conquered the Babylonians. All right, so this is what's going on. You have to know your history. Okay, so this statement here is false. Okay, early Black history. Emperor Septimius Severus wasn't the only Black Roman in Britain. There were other African officers, soldiers stationed on and around Hadrian's Wall in the 3rd century BC. So that's 300 BC. Okay, this is the rise of Rome, 300 BC. All right, Rome just basically took after or over from Greece. Okay, so from the 9th century onwards, there are records of Vikings bringing Moroccans to the region. So when we talk about Moroccans, okay, we're not talking about the modern day Turkish looking people. Okay, we're talking about Black people. Okay, I am 60% Moroccan Berber. All right, Moroccan Berber, and I am as Black as I can be. All right, so when we look at this one, okay, this is an image of Africans. Okay, definitely this is an African. Okay, no doubt. Look at the lips. Look at the side profile. Undoubtedly an African. Okay, look at that. Undoubtedly, look at that beard. Undoubtedly an African. Look at that. Brown skin, heavily curled hair. This is a mask of Selenius, follower of Dionysus. Okay, from 200 BC. Okay, so when they show you this movie 300, the movie 300, they show you Dionysus. Dionysus is white. No, he was actually a Black person. Okay, it's actually a Black person. Memnon and all these people were all Black people, right? Ethiopians, right? So the article will be in the description box. You can check it out. Okay, I have a lot of grounds to cover, so I'll move on. So yeah. So Severus was unique amongst the Roman emperors as being the first Black citizen to hold the highest office in the empire, which is basically the emperor, right? The most celebrated example of an early Black presence in Britain is the case of the Roman military garrison on Hadrian's Wall in Cumbria. Okay. A 4th century inscription tells us that the Roman auxiliary unit, numerous Verorum Aurelianorum, okay, skipping the word, was stationed at Abalava, okay, modern day Sand, okay. The unit had been mastered in the Roman province of Mauritania. Okay, Mauritania. Okay, not the present day Mauritania. Mauritania was basically Morocco, which became Morocco. Okay, in North Africa, modern day Morocco. There you go. So the Black Romans genetic evidence. Okay, it was recently suggested that African DNA might be found. Not might be found. African DNA is there, not might. Okay, so African DNA is found to be present in the local populations near Hadrian's Wall. So this is England, right? And they did a DNA test, finding that more than 10% of people from England actually do have African DNA. All right, African DNA. So admixture, like modern day African DNA. So admixture is a process whereby the DNA of a population becomes diluted over time, and it cannot be shown at what period in time that dilution took place. Okay, or dilution took place. Sorry. African legacy. Okay, so during this time in office, Septimius Severus legalized marriage during military service. Okay, so there is also evidence that some Black Romans married, had children, and remained in Britain after their tour of duty. So this is not a coincidence. Okay, 10% of British population. Okay, I'm not talking about Africans. Okay, I'm talking about Europeans. Okay, people that look white. Okay, actually have direct African DNA. Where do you think that came from? Okay, that came from the Black Romans when Rome conquered England, and this is no little than 300 BC, 350, I think. So there is also evidence that some Black Romans married, had children, and remained in Britain after their tour of duty. I was actually watching a documentary. They excavated an ancient Roman settlement town, and they found out that there was a bone. The bone they found was of a teenager about 17 years old, and she wasn't a European. She was actually an African. Okay, an African, right? But they wouldn't tell you that it was an African. They said it wasn't from. It was a bone that wasn't from that area. All right, the face was gone, but the bone. They were able to do a DNA test and realize that this person was not a Northern European. So obviously, that person has to come from Africa. Right. It wasn't an Asian bone either, so it's definitely an African bone. Okay, so skeletons unearthed in a Romano-British cemetery outside York revealed the limb proportions of some of the men, suggested that they were Black Africans. Okay, this article is 2006, 13 years ago. All right. Okay, and they're still in denial, but perhaps they might be considered to be Britain's first diaspora people, making Cumbria the birthplace of Black British history. That's not true. That's not true. A lot of, even when you look at the British words, the English words, a lot of them were borrowed from Africa. Okay. African words. Okay, African words. I know one English word called an English word for an outcast. It's called Perea. I think Perea. Okay, meaning an outcast. Okay, it's from a Tamil word, and we know Tamils were Africans, Ethiopians, or Kushites. Okay, meaning outcast. Okay, from the Tamil word Perea. Okay, so Perea is from the word Paria, which means outcast. Right, it's an English word, but they borrowed it from Africa, right? So yeah, what do you all think about that article? Nobody has emailed me yet. Okay, so let me know if you're still enjoying the lessons, the history lessons here. I'm going to move on to the final article on this. Okay, and we'll talk more of Africa Watch. Okay. Brother Danubian said, we naturally ruled everywhere because we are over 76 trillion years old. I believe it. Okay, I believe it. I cannot put a timeline on African people. Okay, we've always been here. All right, African people have always been here. All right, there's no timeline. Okay, there's no timeline. We've always been here. Okay, recently they found that humans existed even during the time of the dinosaurs. During the time of dinosaurs, and dinosaurs apparently or evidently went extinct 76,000 years ago, or lived 75,000 years ago. All right, so you're right, brother Danubian. You're right. Okay, 76 million years ago, I'd say. So yeah, no doubt at all. So moving on to the next article on this Black Roman thing. Okay, so we'll squash it once and for all. Okay. So again, another one from Rasta Live Wire. Okay, so shout out to all the Rastafari family on here. Again, brother Ras. Okay, if you're still here, Ras Oxtafari, if you're still here, peace, brother. So Africa Hails articles Prophet Rastes. Okay, so check it out. There's all articles that I read will be in the description box, so you can check it out. AfricanResource.com. Okay. So again, this article from September 25th, 2010, 9 years ago. Okay, 9 years ago. Saying that the Black Emperors of Rome, Roman Emperor Caracalla or Caracalla, okay, with the K, right? That's why we say Africa needs to be spelled with a K. Most people do anyway. Most people do. So here, ivory bust of Emperor Caracalla, British Museum. Okay. Here it is. Okay, I cannot blow this up. Let me zoom in so you can see it. Okay. He is an African. Okay. Look at it. Thick woolly hair, the nose, the lips. Undoubtedly an African. All right. So I don't want to hear this nonsense anymore that Romans were not black. Okay. Egyptians were not black. I don't want to hear it. Okay. It's foolishness. All right. It's foolishness. It just shows that you're not astute enough, okay? Or you're not well read. You haven't read enough. All right. So Emperor Caracalla by Ogwejifo Anu. Okay. It was Bob Marley who sang that 2,000 years of history could not be wiped away so easily. Yeah. So Lucius Septimius Bassianus. Okay, April 4th, 188 to April 8th, 217 BC, right? Commonly known as Caracalla, was a Black Roman emperor who ruled from 211 to 217. Am I right? Is it BC or AD? Correct me in the chat if you know that. Okay, Caracalla was the oldest son of Septimius Severus. So if you have Septimius Severus, I just showed you an image of Septimius Severus. Okay, an African with a coin. Okay, this is his son. This is the son of Septimius Severus. Okay, undoubtedly a Black African person. Okay, so Caracalla was the oldest son of Septimius Severus, the first Black African-born emperor of Rome. But before Septimius Severus, there had been other Roman-born Black emperors of Rome. This story of the other Black emperors of Rome will be explored in another write-up, but for now we focus on Caracalla. Okay, unlike his father Septimius Severus, Caracalla was born and raised in Italy. After the death of so Caracalla came from North Africa, right? So I mean, Severus came from North Africa, but Caracalla was born in Egypt. Okay, so after the death of his father, he ruled jointly with his younger brother Geta until the latter's death. So Geta's death in 211. Caracalla's reign was notable for the Constitutio Antoniniana, granting Roman citizenship to free men throughout the Roman Empire. That act laid a foundation for peaceful, multi-ethnic, multicultural empire that Rome was to become. Okay, here's another coin. Okay, here's another coin. Okay, Antoninianus Sevagrum. Okay, I can't read that. But yeah, this is a coin of Caracalla. Okay, there we go. Boom. Undoubtedly an African. You can see the woolly hair. Okay, undoubtedly. Okay, so from today onwards, okay, I don't want to hear the nonsense. Okay, I don't want to hear that Egyptians were not black. I don't want to hear that the Romans were not black as well. Okay. There's a full article on this. Okay, it's about 10 pages. Okay, to read about how even Africans ruled Germany. Okay, there's a full-on article on Black Germany. Okay, so yeah. So Caracalla was mean towards the military incursions of the Goths and the Parthians. Okay, so the Goths were basically people from like Northern Europe, like the French, Eastern Germany. At the time of the Roman Empire, the 300 BC, the Germanic tribe had overran Western Europe. So there you have the Goths and the Vandals and the Visigoths and stuff like that. Okay, so that's what the Rome was fighting and warding off. Okay, so yeah, so the Parthians and the Tartars. Okay, and he took brutal and extreme steps to suppress those invaders from Turkmenistan. So basically, Turkmenistan is Turkey, modern day Turkey, that were sorely troubling the cohesion of the Roman state. Okay, so the Romans undoubtedly saw themselves more related to Africans than they were related to Northern Europeans. They were not related to Goths and Parthians and Tartars. Okay, those were your Germanic tribes. Okay, they were not related to that. They were more related to Africans. Okay, and if you doubt this, okay, look at your DNA. Okay, look at your Y chromosome. Look at the haplogroups of the world. Okay, look at the Y chromosome. You see that this is no lie. Okay, this is not a lie. Okay. So a modern day British historian Edward Gibbon, a descendant of the Goths, referred to him as the common enemy of mankind. Okay. Because of the massacres he authorized in various parts of the empire. So this is how brutal our ancestors were against foreign invaders. They were brutal. Okay, we did not spare our invaders at all. Okay, we fought them. Okay, something has happened to our people today. Okay, they've brainwashed our people with religion, Christianity. Okay. They brainwashed us. They whitewashed Christianity in the 1600s. Okay, wrote and forged the King James 1600 Bible. Okay, and yet still put in there Jesus is bronze burnt in the furnace, telling you Jesus was black. Yet still Africans don't read it. Africans can't discern that it's talking about a black Jesus. And when you look at all these church paintings, they're all of white Jesus. Why? Brainwashing to make Africans so docile. Can't fight the white man for their own freedom. So in AD 213, Caracalla went north to the German frontier. So when we say German frontier, we're talking about the Vandals and the Goths. Okay, the east of the Danube River. Okay, and subdued the Alemanni tribesmen. Okay, who were causing trouble in the Agri Decumates. Okay, due to that feat, the Senate conferred upon him the title of Germanicus Maximus. Okay, the Great German. Okay, Germanicus Maximus. That basically means the German. Okay, so what the Romans do? Okay, when they conquer a land, okay, they take upon them the name of the land or the name of the people. So when the Roman general Scipio Africanus, okay, who was of Germanic tribe himself, okay, conquered Africa, okay, conquered the northern part of Africa, basically where the modern day Carthage or Tunisia and Libya and Algeria, okay, conquered there. He took on the name Africanus because he conquered there. Okay, so when we look at Caracalla conquered the Germanic tribes, so he got the name Germanicus. All right, this is a no-brainer. Okay, so when we say Africa, okay, Africa is not a European word. Africa is an African word. Okay, throughout Africa, there are names and tribes. Okay, you go to Ethiopia, there are people called Afar. There's a region in Ethiopia currently called the Afar region of Ethiopia. Okay, all right. There's a region in Ethiopia called Afar. You go to Ghana, you hear names like Afari, Afariwa. Okay, and or Afraka. Okay, and names like that. Egyptians call it Africa. Okay, meaning birthplace of humanity, or Al-Kiblan. Okay, the motherland. All right. So the Egyptians called Africa Afruika. Okay, Afruika meaning the birthplace. Okay, so it's not a coincidence. So I don't want to hear people saying that Africa is not Africa. Okay, no. Okay, you haven't studied enough. All right, you haven't studied enough. Okay. So in AD 216, Caracalla took on the Parthians, a related tribe of the Goths. Okay, the Parthians are the ancestors of the modern day Farsi Iranians. So we're talking about northern Turkey. Okay, we're talking about the Macedonians. Sorry, we're talking about the uh, Azerbaijan people of Azerbaijan, people of part of Russia. Okay, Romania and stuff like that, right? Who are causing problems to the southernmost flank of the empire. He tricked the Parthians into believing that he accepted a marriage and peace proposal, but then launched a series of blistering attacks on the Parthians when their guards were down. The therefore ongoing conflict and skirmishes became known as the Parthian War of Caracalla. Okay, so I mean, these are the strategies African used in the past. Okay, the Trojan horse, battles and stuff like that. Okay, Africans and Hannibal Barca was known as a military, genius. Okay, till date, they employ his tactics. In the military, the U.S. military employs Hannibal Barca's tactics. Okay, the elephant he drove into Europe is nothing more than a modern day tank. It's nothing more than the modern day tank. Okay, there are only two places where elephants exist in the world: in Africa and in India. In Africa and in India. And the size comparison between an African elephant and an Indian elephant, you know, it varies. Okay, the African elephant is significantly bigger than the Indian. All right, so it puts fear in your enemy when you ride on an elephant. All right. So yeah, there we go. So the elephants were ancient tanks. So it could easily, let's see. Okay, so the baths of Caracalla were the largest baths ever built in ancient Rome. To put it in historical perspective, the central room of the baths was larger than Saint Peter's Basilica, okay, of Rome. It could easily accommodate over 2,000 Roman citizens. The bath house opened in 216, complete with libraries, private rooms, and outdoor tracks. Caracalla ordered the building of those baths that are named in his honor. Okay, so Caracalla was assassinated by his bodyguard while traveling from Edessa to continue the war against Parthian. He died in April 8th, AD 217. Okay, so we have our backstabbers. Okay, we have our puppets. Okay, he's still playing their games here. In AD 217, okay, we have our puppets, the African puppets, okay, doing the bidding of the European. All right, so it is important that important that Africans should remember and celebrate Caracalla and his family line. That is the Severan dynasty, okay, because as Black Africans, they were us and we are them. All right, so acknowledged, right? By the dint of their heritage, they were part of our legacy, and their attainments represented part of our unfolding tale of greatness, okay, of towering historical achievements, of courage, of regency, and inimitable genius. Okay. The descendants of Goths who conquered Rome and now control historical narratives would want you to believe that they were the real Romans. Okay, so the article speaks for itself, right? Through centuries of selective narration and faking of historical artifacts, they have largely succeeded in hiding the central role of Africans in the defunct Roman Empire. They hide the fact that the Goths and the Parthians, the ancestors of the present-day Germans, Russians, British, Spanish, Italians, and Iranians, the Aryans, were the mortal enemies of the dark Ibero-Mauritian Romans, Greeks, Egyptians, Libyans, and Numidians. Okay, so I like it that this article puts in these people: Mauritian, Romans, Greeks, Egyptians, Libyans, Numidians. Okay, it puts them in the family of Africans. Okay, Africans. These are all African lands. When we're talking about southern Europe, all the way into England, these are African lands. Okay, so-called Middle East is only an extension of Northeast Africa. That's it. Arabia, Saudi Arabia is all Africa. Okay, all the way to Iraq. This was all Africa. Okay, was all part of the Kushite Empire, Egyptian Empire. All right, so I'll take that again. Okay, they hide the facts that the Goths and the Parthians are the ancestors of the present day Germans, Russians, British, Spanish, Italians, and Iranians. The Aryans were the mortal enemies of the Dark Iberio, Mauritian, Romans, Greeks, Egyptians, Libyans, and Numidians. Okay, Mauritanians and Saharans. Okay, so the original owners of Western Europe. They promote a fake and false notion that Rome was a so-called white created civilization affiliated with their Gothic ancestry, okay, which is false. They only came to history in 500 BC, little less than that, even 300 BC, when Rome fell. Okay, and we saw even the time of 217 BC. I mean, AD, 217 AD, Rome was still resisting these Germanic tribes. Rome was still resisting them. All right, so the memorials of Caracalla, Septimius, Severus, Geta, Maximus, Maximinus, and long line of black Moorish African emperors of Rome reject this lie. We must revisit the Roman Empire and salvage the black ancestors and emperors that have been covered by the global Western academic conspiracy. Again, we chant blessings on the memorial of the Severian dynasty. They were the Niger, okay, Niger, or Nega, or Negra. I'm not too sure of that word, but yeah, say the emperors of Rome from Africa. We will be meeting more Black Roman emperors in the next series. Okay, so everyone subscribe to this newsletter. The link is in the description box. Check it out. All right, check it out. Let's see. He also said that there are original people on Mars. Right, I got that info from the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and also he also said dinosaurs never existed. Elijah Muhammad said dinosaurs never existed. Touche. Okay, we found bones of dinosaurs. Okay, Elijah Muhammad also said there are original people on Mars. I don't know about that. All right, I do not know about that. Okay. I know there was an article that came that we do have RNA, right? I think I forgot in my biology class now. RNA is ribonucleic acid, right? Ribonucleic acid, RNA. Okay, was found on an asteroid that recently landed on Earth. So an asteroid fell on Earth, a tiny meteor fell on Earth, and it did have evidence of life, and in that life, the DNA test of that life proved that it shared human RNA, and it just further proves what Egyptians have been saying, that they came from the stars. Okay, they came from the stars. They're star people. We are star people. We are stardust. All right, we are stardust. So no, there's no doubt there. All right, family. Let me know what you think about this. Okay, this is taking me an hour 21 minutes to present this, but I hope this has given you a lot of knowledge. Okay, this is giving you knowledge. I will split this video in half and present the African watch to you in another segment after this stream. All right. So I still haven't got any emails from anybody, and nobody's interested in hopping on. It is Friday the 6th of December 2019. It is currently 7:13 p.m. My weekend has begun. Cheers. All right. And this is water, by the way. It's water. All right. I'm refreshing myself with water. All right. So don't think this is some spirit or something. Vodka. Vodka never freeze. Okay. It's not it. All right. So moving on to Africa Watch now. More of modern, recent current affairs news. We're going to talk about Zimbabwe. Okay. Um, Africans are urging Zimbabwe the world to lift the sanctions on Zimbabwe, off Zimbabwe, because Zimbabwe is suffering. And I won't do too much talking here, but I want to say that, ever since the overthrow of Robert Mugabe, the late Robert Mugabe, our true Black Power, or our last surviving Black Power of Africa, of that generation, of the generation of Nkrumah, Jomo Kenyatta, Gamal Nasser, Nelson Mandela, Steve Biko, Patrice Lumumba, all these people, Thomas Sankara, okay. Museveni, I think Museveni is still alive. Museveni is alive. Omar al-Bashir also, he's still alive, but he was ousted. Okay, all these great leaders of the past. Okay, one thing they do not understand is that they need to step down and let the young generation take over. All right. They want to stay in power till the day they die. Okay, that led to Robert Mugabe's demise. Okay, he could have just peacefully resigned and given power to the people, but he didn't want to do that, and he didn't want to step out of office. So there had to be a coup d'état last year to take out Robert Mugabe and ushering in Emerson Mnangagwa, who is currently the president of Zimbabwe. All right, but Emerson Mnangagwa inherited a lot of losses. Okay, a lot of bankruptcy of Zimbabwe. Okay, and he went around begging for money, begging for capital, but because Zimbabwe has been sanctioned, okay, they cannot do business with anybody. If anybody business with a sanctioned nation, they get sanctioned as well. So, which has left Zimbabwe to be isolated, and day in day out, they're facing a lot of atrocities. And I've covered so many news about this. Okay, there's a lot of riots and protesting, and people dying and this and that, and people fleeing to South Africa, and xenophobic attacks and stuff like that. Okay, but Africa can come together. I've always preached unity, Pan-Africanism. Okay, unity. Okay, all right, join together and help. Okay, so the African Development Bank a few months ago donated or gave Zimbabwe $630 million. Okay, to help them out. Okay, but then guess what they did with that money? About $23 million was given to as compensation for white farmers. Okay, who from whom the lands were taken by some Robert Mugabe. So Mnangagwa is trying to avert the situation or revert everything that Robert Mugabe did. Okay. And what Robert Mugabe did was take the land from white people and give it to the rightful owners, the Africans. Okay, that angered the West. Okay, that angered the United States and the EU, saying that Zimbabwe has breached human rights laws and sanctioned Zimbabwe on the grounds of human rights. Okay, just because of the propaganda that white farmers are being attacked in Zimbabwe. So this is why the sanctions were put on Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe can kill its own citizens. Mugabe can commit atrocity on its own citizens. But the moment Mugabe touched white farmers' land, okay, they faced the full force of the law, okay, or international law. So, without much ado, I've talked about this several times. I'm gonna go into this article and let the article talk for itself. Okay, Zimbabwe is suffering. Emerson Mnangagwa is going around looking for money, and because of the sanctions, Zimbabwe is sinking and sinking and sinking. But Africans can come together and defy, okay, U.S. sanction. Okay, Africa can come together as a bloc. Okay, in defiance, okay, help Zimbabwe, uplift Zimbabwe. This is the very reason why I preach Pan-Africanism. Okay, when we united, when we see the value in unity, okay, uh, we will be unstoppable. Okay, nobody can tell us what to do. Okay, nobody will tell us what to do, and nobody can tell us what to do. Okay, we'll be the masters of our own destinies. Okay, as a united front. All right, so I'll let this article speak for itself. Okay, GhanaWeb.com. Okay, GhanaWeb.com, Friday, the 6th of December, 2019. SADC calls for removal of sanctions against Zimbabwe. All right, so SADC is the South African Development Community. So basically encompasses all the southern countries, or like Namibia, Angola, Zambia, Zimbabwe, Botswana, South Africa, Mozambique, Tanzania, and I think Kenya. So yeah, a whole lot of basically all those countries that I mentioned, right? So the South African Development Community has called on the United States and the European Union to immediately remove sanctions against Zimbabwe. Haven't shared this. So I'm gonna really rush through these ones. Okay, I'm gonna read very fast and let the articles talk for themselves. Okay, so the South African Development Community has called on the United States of America, US, and the European Union, EU, to immediately remove sanctions against Zimbabwe. So SADC in a statement said it was deeply concerned that the ongoing sanctions by the EU and the US were hurting the Zimbabwean economy. Not just the economy, it's hurting the people. Okay. SADC said the lifting of the sanctions by both the EU and the US would lead to a road of recovery from the Zimbabwean for the Zimbabwean economy. The region said the EU had imposed an arms embargo as well as asset freeze and a travel ban on targeted entities and certain individuals. The nature of the US sanctions means that US nationals cannot do business with state-owned enterprises. 3 ZANU-PF-owned companies and about 100 people as from 20th of October 2019. So this is a fresh sanction put on Zimbabwe by the current president of the United States, Mr. Donald Trump. So SADC said these sanctions had a direct impact on employment and income generation opportunities and the livelihoods of ordinary Zimbabweans. The group said all 39 member states of SADC supported the action to remove the sanctions immediately. So Dr. Mumbi reported on this, but she did not read this article saying that all 39 states supported the action to remove sanctions immediately. So, the African Union, okay, needs to come together. So this is Shelley Ayoko Bochoy. I think is the Ghanaian. This is a Ghanaian. I think is a Ghanaian ambassador to the US. Okay. The group said all 39 member states of SADC supported the action to remove the sanctions immediately. Below is a full statement by SADC. Statement by the Southern African Development Community calling for the immediate removal of sanctions imposed on the Republic of Zimbabwe. Okay. On this day, 25th of October 2019, the Southern African Development Community, SADC, reiterates its call for the removal of all forms of sanctions imposed on Zimbabwe to pave way for socio-economic transformation and economic development of Zimbabwe. The removal of sanctions will benefit Zimbabweans and the SADC region, as well as enhance cooperation of SADC with the European Union, EU, and United States of America. Okay, so throughout Africa, we've seen the EU ambassadors being given, the red card, okay, to go home, right, and primarily for meddling in African politics. Okay, so introduction: the SADC region is deeply concerned about the prevailing sanctions imposed by the EU and United States of America on the Republic of Zimbabwe, and is mindful of the impact of these sanctions. Okay, the sanctions have proved to be directly affecting entities beyond the so-called targeted individuals and have a negative impact on the credibility of Zimbabwe and serious trickle-down effects on the economy and people of Zimbabwe, and by extension, the SADC region. Okay, by extension, the SADC region. So Donald Trump extended that sanction on the 10th of October, 25th of October 2019. Okay, this is what Donald Trump did. Fucking idiot. So the nature of the third point, in recognizing the socio-economic impact of the sanctions on Zimbabwe, the 39th SADC Summit of Heads of State and Government held in Dar es Salaam, the United Republic of Tanzania, expressed solidarity with Zimbabwe and called for the immediate lifting of the sanctions to facilitate socio-economic recovery in the country. So yeah, shout out to Magufuli. Okay. Nature of sanctions. The EU sanctions on Zimbabwe comprise of an arms embargo as well as an asset freeze and travel ban on targeted people and entities. And Zimbabwe has a lot of tourist attractions, and if travel to Zimbabwe is sanctioned, okay, you know, it's cutting down on earnings by the people in Zimbabwe. It's ruining the country's economy if people cannot travel and spend money in Zimbabwe, right? The nature of sanctions, okay. So the EU sanctions on Zimbabwe comprises of an arms embargo as well as an asset freeze and travel ban on targeted people and entities. The nature of USA sanctions on Zimbabwe is in two key instruments, namely, one, the Zimbabwe Democracy and Economic Recovery Act, ZDERA, and two, the Targeted Sanctions Program, which comprises a list of individuals and entities and specifically instructs U.S. nationals to not do business with these designated entities or their affiliated entities. So the current list as of October 2019 includes 13 state-owned enterprises, 13 so-called other enterprises, 25 farms, 3 ZANU-PF-owned enterprises, and about 100 individuals. So all these people, 13 owned enterprises. So these 13 owned enterprises probably employs over, thousands and thousands and thousands of people. Okay. 13 so-called other enterprises, also another, let's just say 5,000, 13 owned enterprises employs maybe 5,000 people. Okay. And another 13,000 enterprise employs another 5,000 people. Okay. And then looking at 5,000 people altogether, 10,000 people by these enterprises, and looking at how many family members these people can have. So we're looking at nearly 200,000 people are affected by these sanctions. And then we're looking at 25 farms and ZANU-PF owned enterprises. So basically government owned enterprises. Business is owned by the government, and ZANU-PF is the ruling government of Zimbabwe. So every state-owned business has been sanctioned, basically. So this is very sad. Okay. U.S. cautions gaze on Tanzanian travel. Okay, so boom. It is right here. Okay, don't try it. Okay, this is foolishness, right? Don't try it in Africa. Don't do that. All right, so that was from SADC. Okay, SADC. Okay, in a statement. Okay, the sanctions should be lifted off Zimbabwe. There were other articles dating back October 26th of October, saying sanctions violates youth development. Youths are saying no to sanctions because there are no jobs for the youth. So this article There's another article. This one is from a short one from Al Jazeera. Let me share this. All articles that I read are in my description box, so you can check it out. Okay. So Al Jazeera says that Zimbabwe used to be known as the breadbasket of Africa, but with inflation at nearly 300%, millions of Zimbabweans are going hungry because they cannot afford the basics. Okay. President Emerson Mnangagwa declared Friday a national holiday for Zimbabweans to protest against sanctions imposed by the United States and the European Union 2 decades ago. So basically during the time of Robert Mugabe. So basically in 2001, okay, when Robert Mugabe seized the land from white farmers, okay, and told Tony Blair to keep his England, okay. So Blair, keep your England. Robert Mugabe, keep my Zimbabwe, okay. That is true black power, okay. Black power through and through, okay. So yeah, we like that. We like that. So President Emerson Mnangagwa declared Friday a national holiday for Zimbabweans to protest against sanctions imposed by the United States and the European Union two decades ago. Mnangagwa says the restrictions are choking the economy, but his opponents blame the government's failures. Okay, so who's right? Okay, who's right? Presenter Hashim Ahel Bara. Okay, so. But yeah, Al Jazeera is known for propaganda, so be aware. Okay, be aware. We know the reason why, but then they like to throw that out there and say they like to throw it in there, saying that the Mnangagwa's opponents blame the government's failure. Okay. The government is failing because of the sanctions. So enough of propaganda in Africa. So moving on to the last article on Zimbabwe. This is by BBC.com. BBC.com. Who is here? Brother Dunibia. I saw a video just a while ago saying Trump is cutting food stamps for 750 people. Shaking my head. America is a shithole. Yeah, definitely. America is a shithole. We know that. Definitely. Trump is good. He is doing a great job, right? The divided states of America. Okay. Trump is doing a good job. Okay, imploding white supremacy. This is what it is. All right. So yeah, African Americans. Okay, start making your way to the continent. Okay, brother Dunibian. Okay, make sure you have land on the continent. DC, brother DC, where you at? Okay, DC Brad, where are you? You still here? All right, make sure you when you go to Africa, right? Okay, link up. Okay, let the Africans do the job for you. All right, make sure you're not cheated. Okay, let the Africans do the job for you. All right, make them your family. They'll look after you. Get yourself some land. Okay, move your family over. Okay, because shit is gonna hit the fan in the United States. Okay, yeah. So yeah. So article from BBC.com, also 25th of October 2019, Zimbabwe sanctions. Who is being targeted? This is the big question. Who is being targeted by Zimbabwe's sanctions? So this is an Africans protesting here. Sanctions are evil. Okay. So Friday is a public holiday in Zimbabwe to mark a day of protest against sanctions, which the government blames for the country's economic problems. Okay. So if a country cannot trade or have outside trade, obviously the country is not going to perform. Okay, trade is what ensures a thriving economy. And if you sanction a country from trading, you're basically suffocating. You're suffocating the country. Okay, if you suffocate the country, the young people suffer. Okay, so this is by design. This is by design. The U.S. is known for doing these kind of things. They bombed Hiroshima and Nagasaki 7 a.m., 8 a.m. I think it was 8:40 a.m. they bombed Hiroshima. I think August the 8th, if I can remember very well my history. August the 8th, 8 a.m. I think 40 a.m. the clock stopped. Okay, that was the time school started. That was school time. People were going to work. Okay, they bombed Hiroshima, and guess which people died the most? Children. School children died the most in Nagasaki and Hiroshima. Okay, they chose the same time to bomb Nagasaki. Guess who died the most? Children died the most. School children died the most, and prisoners. So when you go to Nagasaki Peace Park, that is where the bomb landed. Okay, the bomb landed exactly where there was a prison. Most people in prison just died instantly. All the schools around it, everybody died instantly. Okay, so when these people target you, okay, no, they're targeting your children. They're targeting your future. Okay, they make sure your future suffers. Okay, so this is the target here. Who is being targeted? Okay, the article might say something because of the BBC, but I say the children. Okay, the youth of Africa are being targeted. Okay, all these people are the youth of Africa. They're being targeted by these sanctions. So here's Emerson Mnangagwa here. So sanctions are slowing down or progress, inhibiting economic recovery and punishing the most vulnerable. So the most vulnerable is children. So Emerson Mnangagwa, president of Zimbabwe. So the United States and European Union, EU, have both maintained sanctions, citing a lack of progress in democratic and human rights reforms, as well as restrictions on press freedom. So when they talk about human rights reforms, they basically say white farmers should have their lands back. Okay. That's what they're referring to. White farmers should have their land back. Okay. They target both specific individuals and companies. Okay. African push for lifting of Zimbabwean sanctions. Okay. So United States financial and travel restrictions currently apply to 85 individuals, including President Emerson Mnangagwa. There are also 56 companies or organizations facing restrictions. We have sanctions against certain individuals and certain corporations, not against the country of Zimbabwe. But these people are stupid because the sanction placed on ZANU-PF, ZANU-PF is the ruling government of Zimbabwe. So if the ruling government of Zimbabwe cannot have access to fund, I mean, that is sanction against the country. I mean, this is a no-brainer. It doesn't need a genius to figure this out. But then when you have a country of the United States lacking any brain cell, okay, as Macron said, the NATO is devoid of brain cells or devoid of any brain. Okay, it's in reference to Donald Trump. Right. So there is nothing to stop the U.S. businesses from investing in Zimbabwe, from going to Zimbabwe, says U.S. Assistant Secretary of State on African Affairs, Tibo Nagy. I mean, this is BS. Okay, this is BS. If you sanction the government, the ZANU-PF government, you are sanctioning the country. So Washington says the economic impact is mostly on farms and companies owned by these designated individuals. So this is BS, right? This is BS. The US also imposed a ban on arms exports to Zimbabwe. So US but Zimbabwe trade routes. So from 1993, it was very high and it just slumped. Okay, took a dive. To 2019, it's at all-time low. Okay, or non-existent at all. So source is United States Census Bureau. So the EU, European Union sanctions also target specific individuals, both within Zimbabwean government and associated with it. Travel restrictions and a freeze on assets have been imposed, along with the sale of military hardware and equipment, which might be used for internal repression. Originally imposed during the era of former President Robert Mugabe, these sanctions were reviewed earlier this year and have been extended until February 2020. So Donald Trump reviewed it and extended it to 2020. The EU says these restrictions have no impact on the economy of the country. But this is foolishness, this is BS. Look at the people. People are suffering. They can't look at the whole line of gas bottles. People are suffering in Zimbabwe. So worsening economic crisis. Zimbabwe's economy has faced deep economic crisis over the past few years, with periods of hyperinflation, rendering the local currency worthless. Okay. Rendering the local economy worthless. Hang on a minute. I'll take that again. Worsening economic crisis. Zimbabwe's economy has faced deep economic crisis over the past few years, with periods of hyperinflation, rendering local currency worthless. Once again, this year, Zimbabwe has been reeling from high levels of inflation as well as severe shortages of fuel, power, and water. So rising prices in Zimbabwe. So from March or January 2018 all the way to 2019, look at prices have skyrocketed. So consumer price index, Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe. So this source BBC. So recent economic data suggests Zimbabwe's economy has recently been shrinking as measured by gross domestic product (GDP) per capita, the average economic output per person. So Zimbabwe's economic output, US dollars, okay, has slumped again. 2019 fell. 2010 it was rising steadily, flattened. 2013 to 14 went up a bit. 2016, 17, and then it took a dive in 2019 due to the fresh sanctions and a new government. So 2013 onward, IMF's estimates, source IMF World Economic Outlook. I mean, Africa should just stop dealing with the IMF, okay? International Monetary Fund. They do not help Africa do anything. Excuse to drink there. The government of Zimbabwe has regularly blamed sanctions to blame. Okay, so the government of Zimbabwe has regularly blamed the dire economic performance on the sanctions and its neighbors in the South African region, are concerned about the impact Zimbabwe's worsening economic crisis is having on the region, because a lot of people are leaving the country and pouring into South Africa and stuff like that. And you hear Julius Malema saying, Zimbabweans are brothers. Zimbabweans are our family. Okay, so yeah, hear him out. Okay, South Africans. Okay, the South African government, Cyril Ramaphosa, he is a puppet. He's a grand puppet. Okay, you can merge with Zimbabwe. South Africa can merge with Zimbabwe and become one country. Okay, this is what the African Union needs to do anyway. So yeah, it will get there. It will get there. But there's little evidence to suggest that US and EU sanctions are responsible for Zimbabwe's troubles. That's what they'll say, right? The US blamed the crisis on what an official described as catastrophic mismanagement of the economy. Yes, that's to blame as well. Corruption. Okay, corruption. We know that. Okay, corruption. Right. The European Union also points to the economic policies. And mind you, Robert Mugabe died with $10 million cash. It was recently unearthed a couple of days ago that Robert Mugabe left behind $10 million cash and a plethora of vintage vehicles and cars and houses. All right, so another article said the Zimbabwean court has sanctioned the daughter of Robert Mugabe to come and identify Robert Mugabe's assets. So it probably might be confiscated. Yeah, so the US blamed the crisis on what an official described as catastrophic mismanagement of the economy. So basically corruption. The EU also points to economic policies, a poorly carried out land reforms program. See, the land reform program, they're going to put it out there, okay, when they take the lands from the white farmers. Okay, drought and HIV/AIDS pandemic. Data from 1980 to 2015 shows no evidence sanctions had a negative effect on formal employment and poverty, says Karen Pindiri, a lecturer at the Department of Economics, University of Zimbabwe. All right. So when Zimbabwe does a GDP the GDP of Zimbabwe from 2010. Now let's go back to 1993. Okay, so 1993, things started falling. Okay, things started falling. Okay, it's got to do with the land reform. Right, it's got to do with the land reform. Before that, Zimbabwe was doing very, very well. You cannot say sanctions are targeted. Let's see, going back up. Data from 1980 to 2015 shows no evidence sanctions had a negative effect on formal employment and poverty, says Karin Pindiri, a lecturer at the Department of Economics, University of Zimbabwe. For its part, the Zimbabwean government argues that sanctions have cost billions of dollars. You can't say sanctions are targeted when you specify 56% of the biggest companies in Zimbabwe. What is left? Zimbabwe's permanent secretary for information, Nick Mnangagwa, says when Mugabe was forced from office in 2017, two UN human rights experts supported calls for the lifting of sanctions. Okay. They said that measures could not be said to be limited or targeted, as the people and companies affected represented the vast majority of the economy. Zimbabwe's economy is heavily concentrated in particular sectors, and sanctions only on a few people or companies can have devastating impact. Okay, this is what you need to understand. Zimbabwe's economy is heavily concentrated in particular sectors, and sanctions on only a few people or companies can have a devastating impact. So sanctions on what? Travel, sanctions on tourism, sanctions on farms, sanctions on basically exports and foreign investment. How do you expect the country to survive? Every country relies on foreign investment and trade. But if you sanction these kind of things, how are you expecting? It's like you're telling someone to pick yourself up by your bootstraps, but you do not have a boot to start with. You do not have a boot to start with. All right, so yeah, so I don't think I'm going to be able to deal with the rest of the articles in great detail, but it's getting late. I think I'm getting tired, but I'll just rush through the rest of the articles. I briefly talked about the gay agenda. Okay, the gay agenda in Zimbabwe. Okay, we do not want the gay agenda in Africa. So again, Ghana Web, U.S.-Zambia diplomatic ties strained over Zambia's 15-year jail sentence of gay couple. Okay, so I read that in a previous article. Moving on to Kenya, I talked about the corruption, the heavy corruption in Zimbabwe. Yeah, right, in Zimbabwe. But in this article in Kenya, okay, the heavy corruption in Kenya. So they're trying to, employ the use of computer or technology to help manage revenue, okay, of Kenyan Airways. All right, so that article will be in the description box as well. So Kenya Airways has rolled out a new revenue management solution which will enable the airline predict consumer behavior, in addition to improving availability and price offering to its customers. But I think this technology is a system only to manage the funds, right? The revenue, because too much funds is ending up in people's pockets. So pirates kidnapped 19 crew members of Greek tanker off Nigeria coast. So let's see if I can share this. So again, anybody interested in hopping on, send me an email. Okay, chiefjoiner@hotmail.com if you want to hop on. So here, another one from GhanaWeb.com is sharing now. So an oil tanker off the coast of Lagos, Nigeria in 2017. Akintunde, Akinleya, Reuters. So pirates have kidnapped 19 crew members from a crude oil tanker off Nigeria. An official with the ship's operator said on Thursday. The loaded vessel was attacked 77 nautical miles off Bonny Island late on December 3rd. The crew, 18 Indians and 1 Turk, were seized, the official said. Another 7 crew members remain on board the vessel. Neither the vessel nor the cargo were damaged, the official said. The Hong Kong flagged supertanker Nave Constellation, is it Nave or Nave Constellation, capable of carrying up to 2 million barrels of oil, is operated by Greek shipping company Navios Tankers Management. Okay, so we are doing everything necessary to make sure that 19 crew members will return safe, the official at Navios said, adding that their families have been informed. The shipping industry was warned in recent months about the increasing dangers faced by seafarers sailing through West Africa, particularly around Nigeria, with the greater focus on kidnappings by pirate gangs. Okay, so the war is on. Okay, this is the Africans' only way of fighting the Europeans. So don't tell me they're pirates. Okay, they're freedom fighters, right? They're freedom fighters. I do not support piracy, but Africa must find ways and means to ward off Europeans by all means necessary. Okay, this is what I say. All right, China cannot dare to think they want to colonize Africa. They will fail. Okay, the European tried it. They failed. Okay, they failed. Right. Africa will always prevail. So the UN warns of tropical storm to hit northern Somalia. Okay, be careful, family. Mozambique cyclone by the city of Beira. Okay, spoke about that. Okay, rains are falling in Africa. Maize meal price in Zimbabwe set to go down as government restores grain subsidy. So I recently spoke about minutes ago, spoke about Zimbabwe, but the high prices of food and stuff like that. It said that the corn or the maize price is going down, so people can have, or people can afford to buy some food. So mealie meal prices are set to come down after government Thursday announced new subsidy on maize meal in what will see the retail price of 10 kilograms packet of roller meal pegged at $50. That's way too much. Way too much. Way too much. In Australia, I think we're buying a bag of rice. 10 kilograms of rice will set you back about 10 kilograms of rice will set you back about $12. About $12. Okay, and that's a jasmine rice from Thailand. So this is way too much. This is hyperinflation. So yeah, moving on. I hope all goes well with Zimbabwe. And Macron pension reform. So Macron is always reforming. Okay, things are getting worse for France. As Africa is waking up. Benin has announced that it's going to withdraw from the CFA franc, and has urged all West African countries to boycott the CFA franc. So France is going to keep suffering. Okay, France will become a third world country without Africa. So yeah. So the strike everywhere. During the metro strike against planned pension reforms in September, people used bikes and scooter networks to get around the capital. Suburban and regional services in Paris area will be heavily affected. Okay, so air traffic will be affected. Who else is walking out? Nurses and hospital staff, lawyers and police officers refuse refuse collectors, energy staff, postal workers, among others, participating in industrial action. So basically, the country is grinding to a halt. All these strikes in Paris. Okay. Recent poll concluded that 75% of people thought the pension reforms were necessary, but that only a third believe the government could deliver them. So it's not going to happen, people. People of France, okay. France, the colonizer, is going down, 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 baby, down, 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 down. So for me, the pension reforms are one punch too many. We are fighting not to lose hundreds of euros of pension a month after more than 40 years in a job. So how can you dream of ending your career in front of pupils beyond the age of 70 in worsening conditions and on what, for many of us, is just a minimum wage? So yeah, France is suffering. France is suffering. And we love it. Okay, colonizer is falling and we love it. Moving on to Mozambique. Okay, at least 18 people have died in clashes between Islamist militants and the country's defense and the security forces over the past 5 days in Mozambique's gas-rich northern province of Cabo Delgado, media reports. So you should ask the question, why is it that anywhere there's a natural abundance of natural resources, there's always turmoil? There's always turmoil. When you look at Nigeria, the Delta region, there's a lot of trouble there because there's a lot of oil. Look at Iraq, there's a lot of trouble because there's a lot of oil there. Syria, Venezuela, Zimbabwe, Zambia, not Tanzania, but Mozambique, Somalia. Okay. Somalia has a ton of oil. We're talking about Libya, Eritrea, Sudan, where all these natural resources are, especially oil, there always has to be trouble. All right, so I mean, this is no coincidence at all. All right. The son of Gabon president appointed coordinator of presidential affairs. So nepotism, okay, nepotism there, but I welcome it. Okay, I welcome that. You know, a father is always looking out for his son, so giving him the job, so which is great. Let's see, I think it's great. Okay, I would do the same for my son. Okay, I'll give my son work in the government, so he's not idle twiddling his finger, okay, his thumb. So Abdul Rahman Alfa Shaban, African news. Okay, the oldest son of Gabonese President Ali Bongo Ondimba, Nureddin Bongo Valentine, has been handed a political appointment at the presidency, according to reports. He was appointed coordinator of the presidential affairs. So basically, the advisor to the president. Okay. On Thursday, with the main mandate to assist the president of the republic in the conduct of affairs of the state. So, like I said, it's basically just an advisor. The AFP news agency reports that the official announcement was made by the spokesman of the government, Edgar Aniset Mbubu Miyaku, at the end of a cabinet meeting. Okay, so blah blah blah. You can check out the rest of the article in the description box. Okay, but yeah, it's classic case of nepotism. We saw that with Donald Trump. You know, flooding the White House with his family, his kids. You know, and so on and so forth. His own daughter became his advisor. So, I mean, it is done. Okay, if white people do it, Africans should do it too. But saying this, okay, this is what Africans have always done. Right, everything the European does, okay, they copied it from Africa, right, and twisted it. So Museveni is in the news again. It's only a short one from Museveni. I'll show you. Let me share this one. So Museveni is one of the oldest African presidents still alive. Okay, I think Paul Biya is one, and Museveni, one of the two oldest African leaders. And look at him. Museveni is doing some exercise. Look at him. Okay, look at him. What a shame. Look at how old you are. You should retire and have a comfortable life. Okay, he's still stressing yourself doing this. Okay, so Ugandan President Yoweri Museveni says an extra benefit that citizens who joined an anti-corruption walk in the capital Kampala got was being able to exercise their bodies. Okay, thousands of civil servants, police officers, and supporters of the government took part in the December 4 march in Kampala. It ended with keep fit exercises at the end point. Okay, so the president's social media handle posted photos of the former military man engaged in exercise routines. He said the march symbolizes our willingness to fight corruption. Okay, so he needs to look himself in the mirror first. So additionally, this week, this walk has been a fitness exercise. The increase in cases of diabetes, heart attacks, or heart diseases, especially in the urban areas, is because people eat too much and do not exercise. So this is Yoweri 70 from his tweet, Facebook handle. Yeah. So while the government machinery referred to it as an act of great commitment, members of the opposition said it's a sour joke. Okay, implying that the president uses corruption to stay in power. Yeah. So a pot calling a kettle black. Okay, Yoweri Museveni is one of the most corrupt people in Africa, right? Right. He's staying in power for so long, 30, 80 years, I think. Just goes to show you how corrupt he is. How can you, as a president, stay in power for that long if you're not being corrupt? Okay, or manipulated. So since his rise to power in 1986, okay, so 1986, that would make it what? 34 years. 34 years. So Museveni and his government have regularly been at the center of cases involving the misappropriation of public funds. So this is very sad, right? So moving on to the next one, Somalia conditionally frees journalist after ex-diplomat's death. So weeks after his arrest and detention by Somali authorities, a journalist who works with a number of international news outlets has been released. Fellow journalist confirms. So Said Fadaye has got his freedom passport back. He is now free to travel, seek medical help, and continue with his journalism work. But he will continue supporting the Somali government with their investigations whenever he is needed. Colleague Mulid Hujali said on Twitter. So Said Fadaye was reportedly held by Somalia's security minister after a deadly incident in a suburb of the capital Mogadishu. The incident in question was a firearm discharge at a security zone known as Halane. All right, so yeah, I think what happened on Wednesday was the worst and most traumatic experience in my life. My sister Almaz, AUN, and I flew from Nairobi that morning to Mogadishu for a workshop in Halani. So it's a beautiful sister here from Kenya, I suppose. Somalia's press rights record is one of the worst in Africa, according to Reporters Without Borders, RSF. It is considered a dangerous terrain for journalists who are harassed by the government and also targeted by insurgent group Al-Shabaab. The work for local journalists have been crucial in reporting on events across the country. Despite multiple threats, the press union also has always pressed for authorities to respect the rights of its members. So yeah, the article is in the description box. Okay, so yeah, shout out to the government of Somalia for releasing these journalists. We need free speech, okay, and free press. Okay, so yeah. Moving on to Tanzania bans citizens from suing government in African Human Rights Court. So the United Nations Human Rights Office is urging Tanzania to reconsider its decision, bringing individuals and non-governmental groups from filing cases against it at the African Court on Human and People's Rights. So my question is, why haven't they sanctioned Tanzania? Because Tanzania is saying is doing things against its own people, but not white people. But the moment you do things against white people, okay, they will come down on you. Okay, they will come down on you. So as long as Magufuli is doing it to his own people, they cannot do anything. All they'll say is maybe try and mediate, okay, and talk about it. But the moment you take land from white people, they will sanction you. All right. So I'll take that again. United Nations Human Rights Office is urging Tanzania to reconsider its decision, barring individuals and non-governmental groups from filing cases against it at the African Court on Human and People's Rights. So Magufuli's administration has severely restricted the activities of non-governmental groups and independent media. Tanzania's government recently warned local media against quoting foreigners after the United States and Britain expressed concerns about irregularities in local elections. So yeah, this is true black power, right? The Continental Court is based in the East African nation of Tanzania. Critics call this the latest act of repression by Tanzanian President John Magufuli's administration. And if you know Magufuli very well, he just doesn't care about Western propaganda, what the West has to say. Magufuli doesn't care about that. All right. He has no ties to the West. All right. He places great value on his natural resources. Anyone who wants to do business in Tanzania need to abide by the laws of Tanzania. Okay, this is why Tanzania is doing very, very well. So Amnesty International says the decision will rob people and organizations in Tanzania a vital avenue to justice in a country with deeply flawed justice system. The rights group says most cases pending at the court are against Tanzania. So this is bullshit, right? So power to you, Magufuli. Okay, power to you, Magufuli. So boat mishap off Mauritanian coast kills 58, over 80 survivors rescued. Scores of migrants again. So migrants, right? So scores of migrants. Let me share this because this is important for all you Africans trying to cross the Mediterranean into Europe. Beware, okay? The seas are treacherous. You will die. Okay, so this is Senegal here. This is Mauritania. This is Mali. This is Western Sahara. Morocco is there. Algeria is here. Libya is there somewhere. Okay. Cote d'Ivoire is here. Burkina Faso here. Ghana here. Liberia here. I think Gambia here. Sierra Leone here. So scores of migrants who swam through a rough Atlantic Ocean waters to safety from a capsized boat, while 58 others drowned, were receiving care Thursday in Mauritania, after one of the deadliest disasters this year among people making the perilous journey to Europe. The boat that left Gambia a week ago had been carrying at least 150 people, including women and children. It was headed toward the Canary Islands, sorry. It was heading towards the Canary Islands when it tried to approach the Mauritanian coast to get fuel and food. Laura Langarotti, chief of the mission in the West African nation with the UN Migration Agency, told the Associated Press. Okay, so the rest of the article is in the description box. You can check it out. All right. So yeah, be warned. Okay, people trying to catch boats to Europe. Okay. So post Bashir Sudan, okay, US plans ambassadorial presence after 23 years. Okay, so that's a big word there for Chidrana to pronounce. So you have Donald Trump. So basically, what it says is they're going to send ambassadors to Sudan. Okay, and if you know what's happening in Sudan, it's all because of the United States and Australia. They all have vested interest in the oil fields in Sudan. That's why Darfur happened. That's why all these commotion and destabilization is going on in the Sudan. All right, so the article will be in the description box. After 23-year interruption, it is great to see that it is great to see the start of the ambassadors exchange operation between Sudan and the United States of America. This is an important step forward or towards rebuilding Sudan. Yeah, they'll destroy Sudan and then bring in their Western, puppets. Okay, Western puppets. So France not in Sahel for neo-colonialist or economic reasons, Macron warns. So Manuel Macron has been accused, okay, or everyone is pointing fingers at France for colonizing Africa, okay, and Macron is saying this, okay. So President Emmanuel Macron on Wednesday demanded West African leaders to dismiss growing anti-French sentiment across the region if they wanted France's military to continue its operations against Islamist militants. This is BS, okay? This is BS. They caused these Islamic militants in the first place. France invaded and bombed Libya, okay? That created these Islamist militants to come from Libya, okay? They bombed Syria, okay? They created ISIS. These Islamist militants made their way to Libya and made their way into the Sahel region and causing problems. Okay, I mean, they should continue. Okay, they should continue. So the article will be in the description box. Okay, France, the former colonial power, has the West's largest military presence, waging counter-insurgency operations in Mali and the wider Sahel, an arid region of West Africa just below the Sahara Desert. That's not true. France is there to protect their own assets. Because when you look at Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger, and all that, it's all French businesses, mining companies. Okay, Niger has a ton of uranium deposit. Okay, France is mining uranium from Niger. France is mining gold from Burkina Faso. France is mining gold from and oil from Mali. This is not a joke. Okay, this is a lie, biggest lie ever. They're not there to protect Africans. They're there to protect their own vested interests. So yeah, Malawi government orders meddlesome EU envoy to pack off. So African news. Okay, head of the European Union delegation to Malawi, Sandra Payson, has been ordered to leave the southern African nation over what government says is her meddling in its internal affairs. Okay, this is what they do to destabilize the government. They come in and meddle with the government and tell Africans how they need to run their countries. So off with her. Okay, off with her. Let me show you what she looks like. Okay. Okay. She needs to go back to where she comes from. Go back to where you come from. Okay. We do not need you in Africa. No, we do not need you. All right, so moving on to my final article. It's also on the gay issues. Okay, this is from Zambia. I'll share this. Okay, this is going to be my last article for the night. Okay, and I'll go on and enjoy my weekend. I hope you guys have enjoyed your time with Gibrana so far. If you are new, please like the stream, subscribe. Okay, like it, and get educated. Okay, so here, even animals stay off same-sex relations. We won't budge. Zambia president. Okay, so relating to the previous article that the U.S. was basically scoffing or in dismay that Zambia had sentenced gay couple to 15 years in prison. and we'll see what's going to go on here. So Zambia's president has stood by his nation's strict anti-homosexuality. I'll take that again. Zambia's president has stood by his nation's strict anti-homosexuality laws. In an interview with Britain's Sky News on Monday, Edgar Lungu described homosexuality as unbiblical and unchristian, and went on to liken it to bestiality. We know that, no, not even that, it should be un-African. Okay, homosexuality is un-African. All right. We know that there could be more people who are homosexual in Zambia, but we don't want to promote it. Okay, this is what it is. Africans don't hate gay people; they just don't want to promote the gay agenda. Okay, you can be gay all you want, but don't show it in public. Keep that shit in your bedroom. Right? We do not want to see it. I don't want to see a man kissing another man. I don't want to see it. No, thank you. All right, keep that shit in your bedroom. All right. Because we frown upon it, okay, the practice. We don't accept it, okay. Not even it's not part of our culture. Okay. Most of us say it is wrong, it's unbiblical, unchristian, and we don't want it. How about it's un-African, Mr. President? Even animals don't do it. Why should we be forced to do it? Because we want to be forced to do it. Because we want to be seen to be smart, to be seen to be civilized and advanced, and so on. Sorry, there's a lot of typos in this quote here, but yeah. If there are such countries which will allow bestiality, let them do it, but not here, the president added. His comments comes amid a spat between government and the United States. The United States ambassador to Zambia over the recent jailing of a gay couple, Ambassador Daniel Foote, said he was horrified by the 15-year jail term given to the gay couple. Zambia's foreign minister, in a strongly worded statement, asked the ambassador to refer to ongoings in Washington, where President Donald Trump was pushing pro-family and anti-LGBTI policies. And rightfully so, Donald Trump reversed or in the process of reversing all Obama's gay funding, gay promotion and stuff like that. Yeah, Obama tried to promote the gay agenda in Africa. Uhuru Kenyatta told him that is a non-issue for Africa. It's a non-agenda for Africa. We do not promote gayness in Africa. And basically, what Africa needs is infrastructural development, healthcare, and so on and so forth. Okay, so keep your gay agenda. Okay, take it back where you come from, and we do not need your money. Okay, we do not want your money. All right, family. So I have done enough here. 2 hours 25 minutes. If you've managed to stay with me for this long, I appreciate it. Thank you. Today is the 6th of December 2019. It's Friday night, 8:17 p.m. Here in Melbourne, Australia. I appreciate everyone who contributed. Still, nobody wanted to join. Nobody wanted to come on, so I'm going to call it a night. I have exhausted the topic for the day. Okay. To recap, okay. They have now admitted, okay, Europeans have now admitted that Rome was not white. Okay, Rome was an African civilization. Okay, so was Greece, so was Egypt. Okay, all were black civilizations. All right, and Africans are united, okay, in opposing the sanctions against Zimbabwe. We should all come together in one voice to fight the sanctions on Zimbabwe, and so on and so forth. Okay, so check out my description box for all the links to all the articles. You can read it for yourself. Those of you who love to read, like I do. All right. So in the name of Ubuntu, okay. In oneness, okay. In oneness, okay. Peace, okay. Love, okay. We unite, okay. Pan-Africanism, okay. is the only way forward for Africa. Okay. In the name of Ubuntu, let us all love one another as Africans. We are all Africans. Okay. In Africa, I don't want to be considered as a foreigner. No African is a foreigner in Africa. We are all of one family. All right. All right. So, yeah. What quotes should I say? All roads lead to Rome. Okay. Shout out to the article that said that it's an archaeological shock. Okay. I say this article was on a, when was this article? On the 27th of November 2019. I say this is a shock. This is nothing new to these idiots. Okay, I knew of this in 2010. Okay, this is nothing new, but they're saying it's an archaeological shock when you know that there were African black Roman generals, black Roman emperors. How is this an archaeological shock? Okay, so this is foolishness, right? So yeah. So yeah, as I say, all roads lead to Rome. Okay, and also Rome wasn't built in a day. All right. So without much ado, I am going to close out. Shout out to everyone that participated, everyone that commented, everyone that was part of this stream. Ras Ox Tafari, thank you for coming through. Ryan Names, peace and love, brother. Black Power. Ras Johnson M. Thank you for coming through. Ludwig, thank you for coming through. Thanks for your comment. DC Brad 925, I appreciate you coming through. Thank you for appreciating my shave. Brother Danubian, I appreciate you. Appreciate your contribution. Thank you for all your support. Okay. Right. So yeah, go out there, enjoy your weekend. Okay, and have a good time. All right. Until next time, family. Peace, love, one. Peace.